Hello there, welcome to Business Success Partners. So today is just a little conversation between Phil and myself about what business looks like 1 year on from COVID-19. So it was about this time last year, Phil, we were doing interviews with people and with yourselves and the other team members of strategies for business to cope with the huge impact that COVID-19 was having on business. And here we are 1 year later. What's been happening? What are your thoughts? And what are you sort of seeing out there when you're in the market?
Well, it's actually been really interesting, because if we go back over a year ago, as you said, we were actually very, very busy. We were doing a lot of online stuff, talking to a lot of our existing clients, but also a lot of new businesses. And the general feeling then was one of real concern. I mean, a lot of the businesses were really, really worried how they were going to survive, and what was going to happen, in the future as well. If we look at it now, a year later, or a bit over a year later, so what's the general climate? Well, obviously there are certain industries that have really suffered, hospitality and tourism, and some of them didn't make it, and some of them have done they've done okay as well, but in general that is areas that have suffered the most, especially tourism, and especially in some cities such as Rotorua and Queenstown. But in general terms, over a lot of businesses, if we look at our own clients, remarkably, many of them have had their best year ever, despite the fact it's a month where most of them weren't working at all, and no productivity. There were two things that I noticed that happened. Was some businesses, when they came out of COVID, they had a lot of work backed up, and so they were straight into it, where other types, and that was especially all the trade type businesses, whereas other types of businesses, there had to be a winding up process, because the business just wasn't there waiting for them. I think everybody, though, had this impression that it was going to be sort of pretty hectic for a few months, and then it could really drop. And that, for most businesses, didn't actually happen. And so, I've got businesses, some of my own clients have had a remarkable year. But I think a lot of that does come back to what they did during that period, when COVID was happening, how they really looked at their businesses. And a lot of them, like I said, there was a lot of concern. So a lot of the work that was done was really around, how can we make the business more efficient when we come back? A lot of things around staff and just general sort of, all those fine tuning things. And the businesses that put a bit of time into that during that period, used that period well, really hit the ground running. So I think that was quite an important thing.
Interesting. I've been noticing of late, the businesses I'm talking to, that some of them have made sort of major changes in their business that they've been forced into. They are doing very, very well with the sales and everything like that, but some of the raw materials or products that they've been sourcing from overseas, they just can't get anymore. And one was a coatings company where they order 3 or 4 containers of this material every month, and when they put the order in overseas, the people said, well, we've just ordered 100 ton, we only got 10, so we can't supply. And that's created other opportunities locally, in one particular example I'm referring to, and also they're looking for other suppliers overseas, and they think, how can we do this differently? And in some cases they've ended up getting material that's 30% less than what they were paying before. So it's interesting. The world has just changed hugely with those sorts of things.
If there was one word you could say that really came out of something positive that really came out of this, it would be innovation. And it in some ways forced businesses to be a lot more innovative in their thinking. And in some cases, you saw a lot of businesses, because they suddenly had to operate online, and suddenly realized, hey, we can actually operate online, and we don't have to give this up when we come out of COVID. And they had a whole other path to market. There are things like that. But also, just I think that in general, it made a lot of business owners really think about their business, because what happens, and one of the things that and one of the reasons, I guess, why we exist to a degree is that businesses get so used to doing that they forget about strategy, and they just every day is just based on every day, so that they're not necessarily thinking ahead. And we make businesses think ahead, but having that time during COVID, it really gave business owners the opportunity to really sort of sit down and think about where they were going, and think about ways that they could improve their business and be a little bit more innovative. There was some really good funding that was available as well to bring in expertise to help businesses. So in general terms, I mean, the only area that I think has still created a bit of problem is around the available workforce and immigration. I think immigration, the way that that's been handled, I think, has been really, really poor. And I don't want to get political, but I think I've got a number of businesses that use migrant labour and or have used migrants, and this general perception that they're somehow paid less or not treated as well. That does happen to some. That has happened, and you can't excuse that. But in general terms, that's not the case. I think there's a shortage. That's the reality, is that there's a shortage in the workforce for skilled labour and unskilled labour, and we've got shortages of healthcare workers, of diesel mechanics, of contractors. I could make a whole of fabricators. There's a huge list, and just the whole response around that and the way it's been handled, especially with migrants who are already here and have family overseas, has been really, I think it's just been really, really poor. And it's the one area where there is still a lot of concern, is just trying to get good people and looking for good employees. It's not easy. We don't exactly have a high unemployment rate. So
no. I was reading the other day that some restaurants in Queenstown can't even open for the full amount of hours. They just don't have the staff to cope with the tourism, the existing tourism, because the migrant workers have left, and those apples rotting on the ground, all sorts of things. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It does need some.
Look, I have I have quite a bit to do with Katie Armstrong from Into New Zealand, and she's a real expert in this area, and it's always interesting talking to her, because she's always up with the play, and I think it's just the lack of strategy around that, and it's almost like there's been a policy that's just been a one sort of whole cover sheet type of policy, rather than something that's actually understands what is actually going on in the business community and the farming community as well, and understanding that these issues aren't going away, and we do have a shortage of labour, and migrants do play their part. It's not saying it shouldn't be just open slather, but there should be some real thought put into this, a lot more than has been put into it. But that's one negative, but there's a lot of positives. Adversity can create some really good things sometimes.
One of the positives. One of the positives in the space I work in is, if you go back a few years, if you had a site with some e-commerce componentry to it, a part of your business, and you went to sell it, you'd generally get 12 to 13 times the monthly revenue is what they say that part of the business is worth. Well, with COVID now, it's 35 to 40 times.
Wow.
So it's if you're earning $100 a month on your website, it's worth $4,000. If you're earning $1,000 a month, it's worth $40,000. It's quite significant, because that's, people are looking for those types of passive opportunities within a business. So
well, I suppose that's one of the things, is that there's a whole lot of things, because of the way people were communicated, and I was the same. Like I was talking to all of my clients and also our team throughout the country. That was all done via the internet, all done on the web, and you sort of realize, well, actually, I can do a fair bit of my business this way. And I think a lot of businesses realize that. And there were some real benefits and some cost savings that you know, I've got one of our guys in our team does a lot of business offshore now, that probably came about because he realized that he didn't have to be face to face with business owners. So yeah, I guess that comes back to that whole innovation thing. But I think, you know, there obviously has been some casualties in certain industries. I mean, that's been really sad, and in some ways just was probably the real tragedy about COVID. But for a lot of businesses, it's actually I hate saying it's been a positive thing, but there's been some positive things that have come out of it that have been very good for the businesses, and it's made people plan a lot more, be a lot more strategic, and ask for help when they need it too. You know, so year on, it's an interesting picture.
Very good. Well, if you're watching this video and you're interested in just talking to an advisor, we have advisors right through the country. You can go to businesssuccesspartners.co.nz, and there's a form on there on the contact page you can fill out and get someone to contact you. If you want to check Business Success Partners out, the best way to do that is Google the words Business Success Partners NZ, and you'll be able to see the reviews on there and some more information. So, well, it's been great, Phil. It's certainly interesting. Any sort of final word?
I have a lot of pride working in this small business community and seeing how small businesses really did cope through this period. And I think, you know, in general, I think business owners can be very proud of the fact of how they've gone through this and cope with it and come out the other side, in many cases, better businesses. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, great. Thanks for the chat, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Okay. Catch you later, Craig.
See you later.